Guilty pleasures. We've all got some. Whether it be music, a show, a particular quirk or interest you have. We've all got that one thing that we personally enjoy more than most. And while some of us will take it with us to the grave for fear of embarrassment from our peers, some of us aren't afraid to spread that knowledge around like Marmite across toast. That's right, I said what I said. Fight me. I'm here today to tell you that the term guilty pleasure shouldn't exist. There's simply something you enjoy deeply, and other people who haven't been convinced of its greatness. Yet. And you know what? I've got a fantastic review lined up for you all today that I believe will shatter your expectations of what it means to call a film your guilty pleasure. And contrary to what my Twitter suggestions might have led you to believe, it's not a review on the My Hero Academia movies, nor is it an insight into my mental breakdown on how to grow this channel. No, today I bring you my review on... Now wait, before you leave, please trust me on this one. Pacific Rim is a 2013 American science fiction monster film directed by none other than Guillermo del Toro himself, an unabashed genre enthusiast often enchanted by the visual and symbolic power of monsters. After a portal to another world opens up on the ocean floor and begins spewing out monstrous creatures known as kaiju, the world must put aside its differences and come together to create something capable of fighting back before we are wiped out. These giant robots, more commonly known as Jaegers, are humanity's last line of defense between the kaiju and complete annihilation. The movie's premise can be broken down into 5 simple words. Giant robots punch giant aliens. From such a simple premise, you're probably thinking, it must be pretty boring if that's all there is to it. But you'd be wrong. Mr. Pan's Labyrinth himself took the time to make sure that every detail of this film was polished to such a degree that it holds up incredibly well almost a decade later. The numerous intricate moving parts on the Jaegers, the animal-based designs for every kaiju, even the world building itself shows a world where human society has adapted to living and making the most out of the leftovers of these giant monsters. It shows an attention to detail that is often lacking in modern films, not based on a traditional IP or story, and it helps ground the film and make it more palpable to the audience due to the realistic setting in which it takes place. The opening segment of news articles, camera footage and time-lapse help get the audience quickly up to speed with a world that has already adapted to dealing with the threat for some time now, and allows the film to get straight into the action without needing too much pointless setup. Through this gargantuan passion project, Del Toro sought to fashion a giddy throwback to the monster movies of old, and he sought to restore a sense of pure escapism to the summer movie landscape, a worthy goal for a genre master of such inexhaustible imagination. And his love for the material is at once completely sincere and self-evident. His approach to how he portrays characters and action shows that he puts a lot of care into the most insignificant of details, which really shouldn't surprise anyone at this point. I won't lie, the film is utter nonsense in terms of plot, and it shouldn't work at all in a live-action setting, and yet Del Toro managed to create a film that has levels of emotional depth, character arcs, a fitting emotional payoff, and a sense of scale not seen before in your usual summer blockbuster. Pacific Rim likes to wear its emotional beats on its sleeve at times, unafraid to have its characters emoting in huge strokes that at times borders on the edge of being very cheesy. However, this feels intentional, not only in regard to the genre it's paying homage to, but to the greater themes of cooperation and connection it's been portraying throughout. Only through the entire world coming together and our protagonists trusting each other completely in the literal mind-melding process is mankind able to persevere, which, yes, isn't exactly a new theme when it comes to a kaiju movie, several Godzilla movies having already beaten to the punch on that one. But through the guiding hands of Del Toro, it has its own unique and human twist, which in my opinion makes the film a lot deeper and smarter than most people give it credit for. Charlie Hunnam stars as our main protagonist Riley Beckett, portraying an everyman, wounded and without purpose after a previous mission went wrong, which resulted in the untimely death of his older brother Yancey, who finds a new calling when Stacker Pentecost, played by the wonderful Idris Elba, comes to him with one final mission before the Jaeger program is shut down for good. This call to action is enough to motivate him out of his funk and to put his all into fighting for mankind one last time. Rinko Kikuchi stars as the deuteragonist Marco Mori, the adopted daughter of Pentecost after her family was killed by kaiju when she was only a young girl. She's a heroine that takes a lot after the likes of Ellen Ripley, strong and capable when she needs to be, but just as often showing how vulnerable she can feel. Having to overcome her past trauma and face her fear in order to save the world shows the levels of inner strength she's able to portray. And her outer strength isn't anything to sneeze at either. You know, I wonder if this was where teenage me's priorities in life changed. Charlie Day puts in a fantastic performance as Dr. Newt Geisler, a kaiju-obsessed, caffeine-addicted scientist and our main source of exposition within the film. The majority of the comedy within the film mainly occurs when he's on screen, either being berated by his colleagues or when he's out hunting for information. The real charm of Day's performance here is his willingness to commit wholeheartedly to selling the ridiculous dialogue. In doing so, he becomes more or less the emotional heart of the movie as time goes on. Newt's passion for figuring out the kaiju and his terror when he's under attack are as broadly painted as anything else within the film, but he plays them with the same sincerity that has made Always Sunny's Charlie weirdly lovable through over 15 seasons of reprehensible antics. What's more, you can tell that he clearly loves the role and Pacific Rim as a whole. He's our viewpoint character for whenever the lead duo are off screen, and as we spend more time with him, he morphs from a two-dimensional nervous wreck of a scientist into a credible and sympathetic protagonist. The other characters within the movie may not be the deepest in terms of goals, aspirations, or motivations, but they act as a vehicle through which Del Toro can show the audience the effect that the kaiju have had on the different cultures of the world and their responses to it. Each country's Jaeger having uniquely distinct designs, each one tailored to its pilots rather than having a single carbon copy between them all. Even the uniforms showcase slight differences or alterations between them, and it's these attentions to detail that make me appreciate the film so much more. And it wouldn't be much of a Pacific Rim review if I didn't mention the action. The action in this film can only be described as a pure epic spectacle, which under a lesser director would be nothing more than a CGI mess. The slow, weighty movements of both the Jaeger and kaiju emphasize the sheer size of these things, and the damage they cause by simply walking down a street is enough to set the mood of a scene by itself. It's expertly done in such a way that the destruction of the city and the Jaegers themselves being torn apart comes off as physically painful to watch, rather than just a CGI blob on screen of torn metal and rubble. Sound familiar? All of the care put into the film is only further emphasised by the excellent score by Ramin Djawadi. When the theme for Gypsy Danger starts playing, you know there's some serious action about to go down.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
I guess at this point in the video, I should really dig deep and nitpick the film and maybe describe a few flaws in it. And to be honest, the only one I can really find is a problem with Netflix itself. For whatever reason, they don't add subtitles to any of the scenes where the characters are speaking in their native language. So you're left with an awful lot of screen time where characters are talking and you have no idea what they're saying. And I can only think to ask, why? I know for sure that both the cinema release and the DVD release had these scenes subtitled by default. So why then, Netflix, do I have to have subtitles on for the entire film if I want to understand what the Russians are saying inside their giant metal gorilla? Now I'm all for more accessibility options being available in every form of media, but the film's only available in English for some reason, and the fact that it has to have a few seconds to display the language the character is speaking before actually showing what they say throws off the whole spectacle sometimes. So maybe see if this film is available on any other streaming sites before this one, and only this specific film, mind you. Remember, there is no Pacific Rim sequel. At the end of the day, I don't care what people may say about the original Pacific Rim. This film had a lot of care and attention put into the small details by a director who more than knows what he's doing, and no matter how wild the concept, he let his mind run wild and delivered unto us a certified banger. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to check out any of the other videos on my channel. I may have already covered one you like, or if not, let me know in the comments below which film or show you want me to make a review on next. Or if you'd prefer a more direct approach, follow me on Twitter where you can view such madness as me trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm. The link should be down below. Thank you all so much for your time today, and just remember, there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. You know exactly what you're into. You degenerative fuck.